Okay guys, we're going to be going around today to show you some of the sites that you would have visited, teach you a little bit about the history of Athens. We have here Maria. She's going to introduce herself in a second, and she's going to show us first Monastiraki Square, which is right next to your hotel. We can literally basically see it from right here. So Maria, can you tell us?
All right. Have introduced myself. My name is Maria Markaki. I'm a professional tourist guide. We are in Monastiraki Square. Yes. It's one of the central squares of the city. You can tell in the distance is the Acropolis. We are at the foot of the Acropolis. During the courses of Greece's long history, this was an important place. It was the main commercial center. It's called Monastiraki after the name of a church that was dedicated to Virgin Mary, and it's one of the most important Byzantine monuments in Athens. A church that was built during the Byzantine period, yes. And we have also the view of a couple of interesting buildings. A mosque reminding of the Ottoman occupation is just behind me, and that is now part of the Folk Art Museum. It's converted into a museum. The station of the railway that was built to prepare the Olympic Games of the 1896, and now it's combined with a metro station which was built a few years ago, and we're very proud of it. Amazing ruins are displayed within the station of the subway that were built as they were building the subway. And it's 9 o'clock in the morning, it's still nice and quiet, it becomes really crowded later on. This is one of the attractions of Athens at the foot of the Acropolis that you see in the distance.
Alright, let's go on out. Thank you.
Welcome to the north slopes of the Acropolis. We still have the view of the Acropolis in the distance, and the view of a building which is part of the area that we call ancient agora. Agora in my modern Greek means market area, but originally the word agora comes from the verb agiro, that means gathering together. So this was the place where the people were socializing, where they would meet friends, conduct business, listen to anyone who had something important to say. If the Acropolis is the home of the goddess, the home of Goddess Athena, at the foot of the Acropolis we have the ancient agora. So imagine that buildings associating with the political life, imagine Socrates hanging around, imagine people conducting business. The agora was brought to light in the 1930s by the American Archaeological School, and in the 1950s they did a complete restoration of the building that you see behind me. That's the Stoa of Attalus. They had to accommodate all the portable foundings. So it was reconstructed by means of modern material, which is not according to the orthodox way of restoration. The Agora is one of the most beautiful archaeological sites in Athens. It feels like a garden with a variety of trees and flowers and bushes, and the ruins of stoas, the courts, the mint, as well as the west wing of the Agora is the ruins of parliaments and buildings that associate with democracy. Demos, the people, krato, have the power. So, thank you. We're in front of the new Acropolis Museum. This is the new Acropolis Museum. They had to expropriate a number of buildings to start the construction of this modern building, as you can see. As soon as they started building the foundations, they found so much that they decided to put the building on 44 pillars to continue with the excavations. So we have severe excavations underneath. And finally, it opened in 2009, so this is 11 years old. It is the museum where they housed everything that was in the old museum. There was an old museum 10 times smaller on top of the Acropolis. So the museum is 3 levels. The ground floor is a museum shop, and then everything that relates with the south slopes of the Acropolis. That's what the exhibits are there. The second level is the archaic collection, the statues that were buried after the invasion of the Persians. So Kouros and Kores, archaic statues. And the very third level is the most important. It has the orientation and the size of the Parthenon. So that is the Parthenon Gallery, where they keep the statues that escape the eye of Thomas Bruce and copies of the ones that are in London. We are on the west slopes of the Acropolis, which is actually the only way up. Let me tell you that the Acropolis was inhabited for the first time, the 5th millennium BC. And one of the reasons that early Stone Age people came and built the crude dwellings up there was the fact that they could control the only way up and feel safe. The sense of security attracted people on the Acropolis. So this is the way the pilgrims did. We're doing the same way, the west side, and we have the view of the south now. The south slopes of the Acropolis. We're looking south. I'm afraid the day is not the perfect day, so you have to imagine that in the distance is the water. This is the coast of Athens in the distance. Athens is situated at the innermost part of the bay, within a semicircular sweep surrounded by mountains. So Mountain Hymettus blocks the eastern horizon, Mountain Pikilo is west, and we'll see more mountains when we get to the top. And I have to say that the south slopes of the Acropolis is the most interesting part of the surroundings of the Acropolis. We are about to enter, to use the monumental gate. Behind me are the ruins of the monumental gate, the Propylaia, which is it was built in 437 BC. The architect's name was Mnesicles. One cannot but admire the solutions that he gave to the irregularity of the terrain, the limited space available. He still did a masterpiece, so that people walking through had the feeling that they purify themselves. It was a matter of cleansing, of preparing their mind, their soul, to face the Parthenon, that is the temple dedicated to Athena. So the gate is the gate to a sanctuary, and I'm talking about pilgrimage here. So welcome to the Acropolis. Welcome to the Acropolis. We have the Parthenon, the view of the Parthenon. Το άκρον της πόλης, the highest peak of the town. I've mentioned that the Acropolis was inhabited since the 5th millennium BC, so we're talking about 7,000 years of history. I just need to emphasize that it looks that there was a Mycenaean center here, not one of the foremost, and that eventually the 8th century BC we have the cult of goddess Athena established. The Greek mythology suggests that Athena and Poseidon claimed the possession of the city. They were asked to compete each other. They came on the Acropolis. Poseidon struck the rock and produced sea water. Athena planted an olive tree, and gods and people sat in judgment.
So it was based on like a battle between Athena and Poseidon?
Yes.
The goddess of war and the god of the sea?
The goddess of peace is Athena, the goddess of wisdom. She was born from the head of Zeus, and the god of the sea claimed the possession. Yes, it is a battle. It's the mythology which explains always the inexplicable. So that's the mythological background of the Acropolis. The olive tree became the emblem of Greece, and the people started to build temples dedicated to Athena. We have the view of the Parthenon, which is the temple that was built in the 5th century BC. It replaced older buildings that were destroyed. So it was the golden age, the new generation that had all the preconditions to lead to the decision to build a building like that. It's 5th century BC. Pericles inspires everybody to build the buildings that is made entirely of marble, and it follows impressive architecture refinement. So what makes the Parthenon a masterpiece is the use of the marble, the size, the setting, but also the fact that they brought the marble from a mountain that is 16 kilometers away, and they carved every drum of the period, every little piece, in a way to take one and only position. There is not a single piece equal with the other. Imagine that they decided to avoid straight lines, and that we have every part of the temple that looks vertical to incline, and every part that looks horizontal, it carves. So imagine what sort of mathematics, geometry, and technical knowledge was required to realize that in practice 2,500 years ago.
Because they have to be very adaptive to like fit the curvature of the land and also movement over time, right?
They decided to make a building that would look perfect at the eyes of the people and the eyes of the gods. So those refinements actually correct possible optical illusions. The exterior colonnade, it's 8 pillars at each end, 17 pillars at each side. You're looking at the entrance where east was to give the feeling that even if it's such a heavy building, it floats and it has a life of its own. You don't see the walls, but there was a building divided into 3 parts, the pronos, the cella, and the inner sanctuary. Also, use your imagination, a golden ivory statue of Athena. Athena standing with your shield, your spear, holding Nike. The bare parts were made of ivory, the rest was covered with gold, stood in the cella. I'm sorry to say that this was dismantled according to a theory and probably taken to Constantinople by the early Byzantines. And then finally, on the very top of the pillars, you see the entablature, which would be the completion of this building, a sculpture decoration, 92 metopes that had relief decoration, and the pediment with all round statues depicting the birth of Athena from the head of Zeus. Even if we would walk around, you wouldn't see much because those are the statues that were taken to London a long time ago. Thomas Bruce, the Lord of Elgin, systematically removed hundreds of pieces, loaded them in 16 ships, and they were carried all the way to England. After his death, they found their way to the National British Museum. And it was in 2009 that the new Acropolis Museum was built because we do try to get them back. In the new Acropolis museums are copies of the ones that are in London, and they are also the original pieces that escaped the eye of Thomas Bruce.
Okay. All right. Cool. Thank you.